It's election night in America. Polls are closing and results are coming in.
Let's take a look now at the country's overall results for the presidential race.
Yeah, right now, Joe Biden has the lead in electoral results. But if you look at some of those toss-up states right now, that could change very quickly and in a big way as President Trump has a lead in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Now in Ohio, there's that lead, 52% right now for President Trump. You see how many votes have already been counted, just 67% reporting those. So that tells you how many votes are still yet to be counted here tonight. But in West Virginia, President Trump was called early for the state, and the state he won by a very similar margin back in 2016. So a giant win for President Trump again. And to help us break it all down, we're joined by political analyst Mike McTeague. He's from Ohio University Eastern. Mike, thanks for being with us again.
My pleasure.
And you and I had this discussion in 2016, and this feels a lot like 2016, doesn't it so far?
But some things are changing on the landscape. Certainly, the amount of money spent, once again, has escalated tremendously. As of actual records on last Friday, $8.3 billion spent. That's almost double what was spent in 2016. The change of, do you go door to door? Do you use media? Do you use robocalls on your phone? Are you willing to, in a sense, have, what manner? Is it now technology based? And if so, is there a receptivity on the part of the people listening on the phone to what's being asked?
So let's talk about polling, and right now, the polls are looking like they're having a tough day, much like they did in 2016, right? Where we were off by several percentage points. The pollsters were in a lot of these battleground states.
They've decided, they being the news networks, decided to consolidate how they use polling mechanisms. The major networks are kind of using a consolidating feature. Associated Press is doing it by themselves, and they're all using statisticians, but they're very hesitant to go ahead and declare winners, partly because they had made the early commitment, and we've gotten spoiled here in our country over the last few years. We want to declare winners almost immediately when the polls close. We're still waiting for 11 o'clock closes on the far west. We decided we wouldn't allow certain kinds of things to be discussed because the western states wouldn't be influenced by what's happening in the eastern states. So the polling process is still accurate, and it talks about how many votes are available for somebody to come from behind and win. But they're very hesitant about saying it's too early to tell. Percentage-wise, urban centers versus rural centers are the big keys, especially Florida, parts of Pennsylvania, and with it, a whole host of things that are going to be carried out because voting process in some states, they let individuals count as soon as the votes were mailed in. Some of those states did. Others waited until the polls closed tonight, and some states won't even get to it until tomorrow.
And while I ask you this next question, we're going to pop up the results in Jefferson and Belmont counties right now. So two of our most populous counties here in the state of Ohio, of course, on our Ohio side. And this looks almost exactly the same as it did in 2016, with 67% going to President Trump. And in Belmont County, it's much of the same. And with 70%, that's more. So that's in Belmont County, we're talking about 3 percentage points more so far for President Trump this time around than last time around. And in talking to folks, they said Hillary Clinton may have been the perfect storm of a candidate that people in this region just couldn't get behind because of NAFTA, some things that were put in place by her husband, of course, Bill Clinton. But it looks like much of the same now. Why is that, Mike?
We're talking about what issues strike everybody. It's hard to get exit poll information. There's still a hesitancy about people walking out, wanting to talk. They're having to wear a mask. There's even a contentious issue. You have to have a mask to go into a polling place. It's recommended, but most of the courts decided you couldn't force somebody to do it, but it was obviously a good health process if you could get them to comply. But what are some of the issues they're concerned about? They talked about still likability. Would you vote for somebody or against somebody? Surprisingly, most people who vote for Trump vote for him, not against Joe Biden. On the other hand, there's a number of people who voted for Joe Biden because they voted against Donald Trump. So there's an issue there. There's also the question about all the topics that were supposedly up in front. Can you get the economy up and running? Are we going to have a vaccine? Are we going to, in a sense, get our international trade back and up and running? When the economy was hot, Trump was hot. And when it goes to a close down, does that give the Democrats a chance to come back up through in some ways? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see.
And we're going to wait and see. We're going to talk again in about 10 minutes, so stick with us. Mike, thanks so much.